Good day everyone, this is Patrick from EasyFX Code Trading System, and it's Saturday the 9th of May 2020, and it's the weekly analysis for Euro, Cable and Aussie dollar for the second week of May. And for last week, all the major pairs against the US dollar weakened and then picked up at the end of the week against the US dollar, as the US dollar gained strength for most of the week last week, and it's been going on for the last few weeks, flip-flopping, and US dollar weakening and strengthening in alternate weeks as it ranges and consolidates. So let's start off with the euro. And after spiking through the 110 at the end of the previous week, it started retrace and retraced the whole move of the previous week until it found support right at the previous swing low we had identified earlier, just below 108, and then picked up towards the end of the week to climb back up above the 21.4 fib retracement level. So support is still at this key level that we identified, and it actually bounced off the upper trend line of the descending wedge that it broke up from. So whether there's going to be support and a continuation move for next week, we shall see. Monthly pivot is still at the 109.06 level. Let's move this intermediate. Let's move it to the this 38.2 fib retracement area. That's going to be the next intermediate resistance. If it does break from above the 55 EMA and the monthly pivot, so basically that's the range that it's moving in for the last week. And it's also, if we narrow it down, it's also consolidating now in a rectangle, but we'll see how it forms over next week. That basically is just consolidation. And yesterday or Friday's US non-farm payroll was very bad as expected, with a loss of 20.5 million jobs and unemployment rate of 14.7%. So market had expected even worse. So that was the slight rebound for the majors against the US dollar. Let's take a look at the weekly time frame, and you can see that it retraced the previous week's gain, and it's still consolidating in basically the range between the 108 and the 110. Alright, let's move on to the cable. And the cable as well dipped down lower and managed to find support at the 50% fib level that we identified, and then picked up on the Friday against the US dollar, against the poor non-farm payroll data. 125 is going to be a key resistance level. Let's remove this for now. That's the next, that's the major resistance zone at just below the daily 200 EMA. And after retesting that swing high with a double top, that's where it fell below. Now we'll see it consolidating in a rectangle here. It could be also retesting after falling out of the bullish channel, retesting the trend line, and it's also right at the monthly pivot, and we'll see whether it's going to dip lower through the support and whether it's just going to continue consolidating in the rectangle. We'll see how this forms as well, similar to the euro. So 125 and monthly pivot, as well as the daily 55, there's a whole bunch of areas that's going to create a resistance zone, an intermediate resistance zone. So we'll see whether it's able to break out above that. Let's mark this as the intermediate zone. Right, otherwise it's just going to consolidate between the 50% fib and the swing high double top at the 126.38 area, where the weekly R1 pivot was last week. All right. Last week, the Bank of England left rates unchanged as expected, and also did not change any stimulus figures, so nothing has changed there. Let's move on to the Aussie dollar. Before that, let's take a quick look at the weekly time frame. And yes, it's still consolidating. There's a double top up here, and then now double bottom. So it's just consolidating in that range that we identified. Moving on to the Aussie dollar. The RBA as well left rates unchanged, and as expected, but it managed to find stronger support at the daily 55 and rebounded higher towards the end of the week. So let's take a look at the weekly time frame, and this was a more bullish close and a candle for the week as well. So there could be some bullish momentum to push it up to retest the next resistance zone. Let's see whether it's going to reach the daily 200 EMA at 0.6637. Right, so let's move this. This will be the intermediate resistance with the swing high of the previous week, and this area previously is going to be our resistance zone, just above the daily 200 EMA and right where the 100 fib swing high is. And below that, if it does fall below the daily 55 EMA, that's the monthly pivot at 0.6354, and key round figure at 0.63. All right. So the key news for the Australian economy will be the unemployment report or jobs report on Thursday, and we'll see how significant that is going to be. Right, but meanwhile, it's also looking like it could be forming a rectangle and consolidation sideways, similar to the other pairs as well. So next week will be critical because the second week of the month, and we'll see whether there's that consolidation will hold or whether there's going to be a breakout. So other than that, there's only a couple of key US news with CPI and retail sales. So it all depends on other major news that could trigger some breakouts. And it's either the COVID-19 pandemic news on and easing of the lockdown, or any further stimulus measures that's being put forward by the respective governments. Alright, so meanwhile, do check out my other videos on spot gold and dollar yen, and do have a safe week and have a good trading week as well, and cheers for now.